it will be recorded. So, all right, I'm going to start out. And my name is Dan Fluid. I'm the VP of Sales here at Tallan. And we're going to be talking about a modern data platform in 30 days. And this is also called the DPi30 assessment from Microsoft. And we're going to go through a little bit of the agenda today of introductions. And the first thing that we're going to be talking about is what is the DPi30 and why should I care about it? And this is from your perspective as a customer. This is what we're going to, what you get out of it, what Tallan will bring to it. And then we're going to jump into a little bit about who Tallan is and how we deliver these DPi30 engagements, as well as pretty much any of our other engagements. We're going to go through the basics of the DPi30 and then some client success stories, and then wrap it up with some question and answer. So when we talk about the data platform in 30 days or the DPi30 engagement, it's a engagement that we work alongside with Microsoft, and Microsoft will fund the engagement. And what we're trying to do is bring you a modern data platform built on Azure Data Services and working with a certified partner, a certified Microsoft partner to do this. And what we've done in the past with these is there's some customers that we talk to that have done a little bit in Azure. There's some customers that really haven't done much in Azure. So we'll start these things out with an analysis and design workshop. And usually when we talk about these modern data estates, we'll pick up to 3 use cases. And depending on how complex or how easy the use cases are, obviously it's a complex one, it would probably only be a single one. If there was some easier use cases, we could do 2 or 3 different scenarios and do a little bit of analysis and design to see what it is that you have today and what we can start to mold it into for the future. And one of the things that we talk about doing these is we talk about an as is, a to be, and a plan to get there. That's what this analysis and design workshop is you guys would explain to us, here's what we have and here's what we'd like to do. And that gives us, or that would give you a good feeling that, they really understand what we're trying to do. The next part of it, going through the design phase of the workshop, is we'll start to explain to you of what this is going to look like in Azure and in the cloud. And that gives us a good understanding that you understand where we're trying to bring you. And then the plan to get there is exactly that, is what is it going to take to build out this modern data platform? And then from there, we'll go and build out a landing zone deployment. Sometimes people already have stuff living in Azure. We can use the existing Azure environment. For people that don't have anything in Azure, we build out a landing zone that gives a solid foundation for you to not only build the modern data platform, but to build anything on Azure. The next piece that we're gonna talk about is the data platform transition. At the end of our projects, we always want to make sure that our customers can take what we've done for them and either build on it and keep building on it by themselves, or if they need help building on it, we can help you. Or if you would like us to keep going and build out the whole thing, we want to make sure that you're in a position that you understand what was done and you could take it over if you really needed to. And talking about doing these, the DPi30 program is a program that Tallan has been accepted into, and we've deployed about 33 of these DPi engagements in the last year. And one of the other things with this that people find very attractive is we have dedicated Microsoft support. There is a solution assessment team that will help guide us through this. There is the Microsoft solution specialist that you work with on a day-to-day basis. I see there's some people here from Massachusetts, if you know who John Huber is or any of those people. We work right alongside all of the Microsoft representatives that help all of you guys to make sure that we're coming at it from a unified front, that we're taking into account the customer, the use cases, and make sure that we're all working towards the same goal. So as we talk a little bit about what it is, it's a data platform in 30 days, and we break it up into three phases. First is analysis and design that we just talked about. Project kickoff, looking at the business objectives, whiteboarding out a design, making sure that we're setting ourselves up for success on both sides, from us at Tallan and from you as a customer, and from Microsoft's side. And from there, once we've done the analysis and design, we'll go through and deploy the solution. So we will talk about the use case that we work through and go through and build out the code, build out the Azure environment, and get it working from end to end. There's a lot of times that people will start with raw data files, run it through some transformations, and then at the end, it kind of will be stored or shown as a Power BI report. And that way, we've done a proof of concept, but it's more than just a proof of concept because it's a real working thing. It's in your Azure environment, and we always like to take a use case that is something that is a problem now that this really is not going to be throwaway. So when we're building out this initial foundation and going through and deploying the solution, it's definitely not something that's going to be thrown away. Then from there, once the solution is deployed, we do the transition to the customer where we share all of our project deliverables. At the end of the DPi30 engagement, there's a presentation to the senior leadership on the customer side, along with Microsoft. So it would be Tallan, Microsoft, and the leadership at the customer to share the project deliverables, do a presentation, do a demonstration of what we did, and then discuss next steps going forward. And one question we always get on this is, we have something going on, and we just, we know that we want to build out a modern data estate. Is this something that can help get us kicked off? And it's definitely it's the get out of the gate or get out of the blocks part of the project. So if you already do have a larger data warehouse or a data platform initiative going on, this is a great thing to help fund it and help get it out of the gate. So as we talked about, the first part of it, we're going to go through the project kickoff. And this is when we go through our kickoffs, we will always have the people from the Tallan side, as well as the leadership on the customer side, to make sure that we're matched up in terms of objectives, in terms of goals, and that we come out of this at the end of 30 to 40 days with something that everybody says, we're going to build this at the beginning, here it is at the end, so that nobody is at the end saying, oh, I thought you were going to do something different. I thought you were going to do this, making sure that everybody's in alignment the whole way through. So the first customer story that we're going to talk about is the Washington Employment Security Department. And one of the things that they wanted to do with their data process or their data processing is they had 30 plus years of data, and going through that is, as everybody could imagine, is very, very monotonous. It was slow. They had some reports that were supposed to be daily reports that were taking 26 and 28 hours to run. So then, once it runs, you're a day behind. And they said, there must be a way that we could make this thing a little bit better. And it was about a 19-step process to go through and process all of this data and get it staged for reporting. So we were able to take this data and put it into a modern data estate and cut down. One of their use case that they said, we want to focus on step 9, where it takes about 24 hours or 20 hours to download, 2 hours to unencrypt, an hour to deduplicate. They said there must be a better way to do this. So we focused on that one step 9. That was their use case. And we were able to get these reports out to them just by fixing one step in their process in less than 12 hours. So by taking advantage of the computing power in the cloud and just making some real small tweaks to their process, we're able to get a daily process that was back running and could actually run overnight, and the data was available for them the next morning. A lot of people will be asking, what does a modern data estate architecture look like? And if we were going to build out a full modern data estate, this is a very good diagram of what it's going to look like. There's a lot of line of business data sources. There's logs. There's streams. There's semi-structured files, unstructured files. A lot of that will go into either Azure Data Factory or Azure Databricks. And when we are setting these things up, a lot of times go through Azure Data Factory, Azure Databricks, stored in the data lake. We'll use Synapse sometimes, we'll use Databricks sometimes we'll use both of them. And then from there, once the data is all curated and put into its different slots that I'll go into a little bit on one of the next slides, then it can be consumed by Power BI reports. It can be consumed by business services. Sometimes this data is just put out that people will be writing an API layer against to go and retrieve this cleansed, transformed data and use it for all of the different business systems that they're in. So as I was saying, this is kind of a full-blown modern data estate. And usually what we're doing in the sample DPi30 architecture, since it's only to be done in 30 days, most of the time we'll take a data source, 1 to 3 data sources, put it through Azure Data Factory, through Synapse Analytics, and then store the data in the data lake storage. And then at the end of the process, as I said before, usually there's a Power BI report that's designed and written so that we can see the data going in on the left-hand side and see it come out on the right-hand side as we expected. And then from here, you have that basic sample DPi30 architecture, and then you can build on it from there. One of the things that a lot of our customers will ask is, how does this data look throughout the data flow in the data lake? And a lot of times it starts out as raw data, and then we'll go through and put it into a staged area. From there, they can take the staged data and start to curate it, clean it, transform it, and from there, we can then take that curated data and put it into the data warehouse and then put it into some sort of semantic model that then can be reported on. A lot of times when it's curated, we can start to do aggregations on it and start to do different things to do different pieces of like experimentation. When people want to start to do machine learning on data, that's where we'll start to do some experimentation. We can mix in some machine learning and get more of the insights into the data than just the raw data itself. And as I said before, we use things like Power BI, RStudio for the modeling and machine learning type of work. And this is a little bit beyond what the DPi30 engagement will be delivered, but we always try and make sure that everybody's like understanding the art of the possible and starting to see, hey, if we do it this way, going forward, if you have this data staged and curated, you have a very easy way to start doing machine learning on it. You can have it in your data warehouse. And as I said before, we're setting up that foundation for everybody to build on success. So the next part of the solution, when we go through and do the deploying of the solution, a lot of the things at the beginning, a lot of analysis and design, and then when we start to build out the solution, it's where we'll take it on our side. We'll start to go through, and we have a very iterative process that I'll talk through in another slide or two. But when we're going through and building out the solution, we want to make sure that we're starting to build this out and make sure that we're getting our customers what they want. And we'll go through a little bit of our Tallan process to show that. This is our approach that we have written down for our DPi30 engagements. And as I say to everybody, this is how we approach just about any project. It doesn't matter if we're building a data warehouse, if we're doing custom application development, if we're doing an Office 365 migration, or we're doing a data center migration to Azure. Our approach is always the same, and it mirrors a lot of the Microsoft's cloud adoption framework, where we're going to talk about a vision and a roadmap. And we want to make sure that everybody is marching towards the same goal, and that we have this roadmap so that at any time we can say, all right, here's where we are, here's where we're going. Is this where we want to be? From there, we'll build out a proof of concept. And with the proof of concept, that gets something into your hands as the customer and say, hey, I see it, I feel it, this is how it works. I can start to play around in Azure. And at this point is a very critical point in our process and in our project, because if something's not right, we want to fix it here and not get all the way through doing some development, building a foundation, building a project, building a product, and then we show it to the customer and they go, I know that's what we said, but that's not really what we want. There's a lot of rework in that. So we're going to go through, get the proof of concept set up, get the foundation set up, get a minimum viable product set up. And then from there, we're going to innovate and keep going and building it out. And that way, showing you things early and often. And that way, if there is something wrong, we can fix it and it'll be fixed for all future migrations. What we've seen with a lot of our competitors and a lot of just kind of being in the industry for years, a lot of our competitors will build out the roadmap and then they'll go, all right, we're going to go away for 6 months and build this thing and we'll see you in 6 months. And in 6 months in business, a lot of things can change, a lot of things can happen. And then you get back at the end of 6 months and you're like, all right, good, but half of this stuff doesn't apply anymore. And this changed and all these other things changed. So by us doing small iterative development cycles, we can make sure that we're staying on top of that. And as I said, that you're seeing things, feeling things, touching things, making sure that they work for everybody on both sides, and then continually improving. Then the last part of our process that we see a lot of our customers that we're going in to talk to, they go, you know what, we had this company build something, it's out there, it works, but we're not quite sure if it's right. You know, we don't know if it's backed up, we don't know if it's monitored, you know, all of that, the kind of last part of dotting the I's and crossing the T's, we don't know if it's been done. So one of our pieces of our approach is that we're always going to go through and operationalize what we've done. Make sure that, you know, it follows the backup strategy that you have for all of your other machines. If there's monitoring on it, we want to make sure that all of these things are in here. And the last part is governance and enablement. As we talk about doing things in the cloud, it's kind of the same as doing things on-prem. You do the same types of things, you just do them a little bit differently. And by us going through and explaining governance and enablement to you, we can start to put up guardrails in the cloud that will help you, you know, not get into a situation where you're all of a sudden going, all right, you know, we put this thing out in the cloud and all of a sudden it's costing us $15,000 a month and we have no idea why. And it was because somebody went and spun up a very expensive data warehouse to just see if they could, and they left it running. So we can start to do some things with governance to make those things not happen. And as I say, they're kind of like guardrails that, you know, you go, you bump up against it, you get back to the middle of the road, and it'll let you still be innovative and still be nimble, but it won't let you shoot yourself in the foot. So the next client story that I would like to discuss is a DPi30 engagement that we did for DC Water. And this one actually went into, it was an initial DPi30 engagement, but they had a much bigger plan in store. So they were looking to do predictive maintenance so that if there was water breaks, and I'm sure everybody has seen, like if there's a water break in a town or a city, all of a sudden you start to see water bubble up from the ground, and it's just a bad, bad thing. Because from there, they have to go, like from the DC Water's perspective, they said, if we could schedule a maintenance, if we knew that something was going to break, or, if we had an inkling that some pipe was going to burst, it's much easier for us to go, all right, we're going to put up signs, we're going to shut down the road, or we're going to dig up this road and make it go to one lane. It's much easier when you can plan all of that out rather than seeing water bubbling up through the road. Then you have to get in, shut down the road, start to bring in all kinds of heavy equipment, and it just makes a mess. So they were like, you know what? We know that if we have pressure or air gaps in certain pipes, or pressure is dropping here and it's rising here, that's usually an indicator that there's a leak in the pipe. And so they said, we would much rather say, all right, that's happening now. We're either going to send a person down a manhole to start to look at this, or if we do need to dig up the road to see what's going on, we can do it in a controlled way. So we had put in a data warehouse that was taking in analytics from all kinds of different sensors along the way in the Washington, D.C. water train, I guess you could say. And they were able to start to do predictive maintenance on water mains. And as they said, it saved them tons of time, tons of heartache, and a lot of money by doing this. So the last thing that we're going to talk about in the DPi30 engagement is the transition to the customer. When we talk about sharing our project deliverables, it's not only the design and the pieces that we built out, but one of the things that we always will include in there is, here is what your Azure costs are looking like now and what they're going to look like going forward. So it's not only a design, but we're going to say, hey, here's what all of your costs look like going forward, and this is going to help you to be able to build on things in the next iteration or the next 5 iterations. And as I said before, with this transition, it's a transition of Tallan, the customer, and Microsoft, so that everybody is kind of on the same page of where we're going next. And from these different things, if we've seen a lot of customers, if they really want to go full steam ahead and build out a full data warehouse solution, there are more funding buckets, like we talked about, to help offset those costs. So when we go through and put together all of our deliverables and say, this is what they have now, and this is what the customer wants to be in a year, that helps everybody be on the same page and get the help that you need, get some additional funding that we could have, and get everybody to where they really, really want to be. So the last thing that we're talking about is another water authority, and it was Austin, Texas. And one of the things that was very interesting when we started this project, they said, we want to look at water meter data and start to ID anomalies and look at things that just don't seem right. And when they were talking about this, I was like, what do you mean? And they go, well, there's people that steal water. And it was very, very interesting to me, because I thought, water's everywhere, and how do you steal water? And they were able, like, of people tapping into meters, in an office park or an office building, go and tap into different water lines before and after meters. And they were saying, a customer that has a square footage of this size, or has 13 bathrooms in their building, they should be consuming about this much water. And what they were seeing was, there was some customers that were consuming not nearly enough, and the people right next door were consuming a lot more. And they were able to take these things and go, all right, there's something going on here, that somebody is stealing our water. And they could go out and do an inspection of it and see that, sometimes it was done maliciously, sometimes it was just a plumber that didn't quite know what they were doing, and they tapped into the pipe at the wrong place. But they were able to do this, and then they were able to start to predict water usage across different parts of the city, different usages at different times, and it let them really schedule out and do things in a much more efficient way. And this was all another one that I said it was monitoring a whole bunch of meter reads that they had a whole bunch of data that they've gotten forever. They just never had it in one spot. Or one of the other things that they were saying is we had this metadata from here, and then we had this other thing from this other source, and this other thing from another source. They were able to take it, put it all together in the data lake, and then report on it that way. So that brings us to the end of our DPi30 engagement webinar. The next steps, before we get into Q&A, I just want to say the next steps is, if you found this interesting at all, there is the people that we usually are working with on the Microsoft side is Bart and Christy. If you do want to explore one of these DPi30, please feel free to reach out to anybody on the Tallan side, or if you have Microsoft contacts at your company, then feel free to reach out to them, and we can start to get these DPi30 engagements going. In most of the time, it's a 30-day engagement that lasts about probably 45 days in reality, but it's something that at the end of that DPi30 engagement, you have a working, running application. So if this is something that is very near and dear to your heart, please feel free to reach out to us. And I'm sure that our business development managers on our side will be reaching out to you to see kind of where you are and see what your thoughts are on this. So I will stop there, and if anybody has any questions, you can feel free to unmute yourself or put them into